welcome back. You are watching Beginner Beading with Janet. This is the third in a series on how to bead around a cabochon. We are making a phone grip. So today's video we are going to put a backing on our cabochon, which we have beaded around and added a row of banding to. Going to use to put on the back of our project. This is vinyl. As you can see, it's felted on the back, and we have like a leather-like feel on the front of it. Is I'm going to cut out, and it saves me some space on my vinyl so that I can use it for other projects. So we're just going to cut it out. Get that out of the way. And we're just to the edge as we can. Once we get it glued down. Okay, get that out of the way. And now we have it cut, and you can still see little bits of black around there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some tacky glue. So I get this tacky glue at Walmart. You can get it at beading stores, probably at Fabricland. I find this the best adhesive for fabric. You could probably use E6000 if you have it. This is about $15 a bottle, and I've been beading since last June of 2019, and this is April of 2020, and I still have quite a bit of this glue left. Like I have more than half a container. So for $15, it's really lasted me quite a long time, and I will probably have it again for another year. So the $15 was worth the price for me. So I put some glue. You don't need a whole lot on the cabochon, and I'm going to put my backing on and just give it a gentle push. I'm going to just trim a little bit of the black. So I've already threaded my needle, and all along whenever we've threaded our needle, we have knotted it, and this time you are not going to put a knot on your needle. You're simply going to do your usual 2 lengths, and what we're going to do is do a picot edge. So I started with red beads here. You can see I have red, then green, and then a multicolor. So I'm going to continue on the pattern of the red and the green. So there's going to be a row of red and then a row of green above it. So I'm going to start with a red bead. So to start picot edge, you're just going to start with 1 bead. You're going to come through the back of your pellin. I'm just going to show you here. I'm going through the back, and I'm aiming to go between two of the rhinestones, like that. So you can see I've got my needle through those 2 rhinestones, and I'm going to pull. And there's my bead. I'm pulling and pulling until I have a good length of thread free, because what this thread, it was going to happen with this thread later is it's going to get weaved into your work. So now what you're going to do, you're going to have a nice length of thread there, enough to put your needle on and bead through your work. And you're going to put your needle up through that red bead. So now it looks like both threads are coming through that bead. I'll give you a look here so you can see now that bead is sitting right like this, and it's got both threads coming through. So from now on, you're going to be putting 2 beads on your needle. So my top row is going to be green, so I want that one to go first. So green bead, and then my bottom row is a red bead. So I have now a green and a red, and I'm going to go through the back and between those 2, the next 2 rhinestones. and I'm going to pull my thread. And now you can see I've got 3 beads on there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up through the red bead. Just the red bead. I'm going to leave that green bead alone. I'm going to pull my thread so that it lands between those 2 rhinestones. I've got the thread going between the 2 rhinestones. And this is just a repetitive action of a green bead and a red bead. I like to check the back before I go in so that my stitches look even when I'm finished. There, I pulled it, and I'm going to go up through the red bead. Okay, and again, green bead, red bead, check the back. I kind of gauge where that little gap is. Pull my thread up through the red bead. So you're always going through that front bead and letting your thread land between those 2 rhinestones. So this is where it helps to have rhinestone on your work, because it gives you a guide on where you want to land. If you haven't used rhinestone in your work, you can just measure it by the width of a bead or 2 beads. Probably 2 beads would be better. So long as your work is, your stitches are even on the back and each one is spaced evenly. And here you can see I have evenly spaced stitches. Green bead, red bead. Check the back and through to the front. And I am going to do that all the way around. And when I'm almost to the end, I'll come back and show you how we finish it off. You can see I am almost finished. So I'm just going to finish the last couple of beads on my edging. And again, we're going to go back up through. I always go from the I like to use 2 colors just because it adds a little bit of interest, but sometimes I just do 1 color. It depends on what my project is. So you can see here we're almost to the last gap in the rhinestones. And you can see there's 1 more spot to go. And up through the rhinestone, between the rhinestones, and up through that red bead. So now you're going to see, especially since there's 2 colors, it's actually easier to see this, that we now have 2 red beads beside each other. So you can see 1 red bead here, 1 here. So what we want to do is to close that gap with a green bead. So you can see how the green bead is sitting on the top here. We want a green bead sitting on top of these 2. So this is the last stitch where you use 1 bead. We began with 1 bead and we're going to end with 1 bead. So I'm just going to go right down inside that very first red bead. And I'm going to move that needle down between the pellin and the backing down to, and I'm going to pull my needle out here where my middle row beads are. So you can see that. Pull it, and you'll see my green bead pull those 2, pull this thread out, pull those 2 red beads together, and now it looks like all the rest, and my thread is now coming out here where my beads started. So to finish off this thread, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it through a few beads, like so. And I'm going to put my needle under the existing thread that's pulling those beads together, not the one that I'm using. As you can see there, I can see the little bit of thread there. And I'm going to pull my thread through there, and I'm going to create a loop. You see this loop here? And now I'm going to put my needle through that loop, and then I'm going to pull it tight, and that's just going to make a little knot. And I'm going to push my needle through the next bead after that knot. And I'm going to go through a few more beads. And when I pull that, you see how the knot disappeared there? I always want to do at least two of those knots. So I'm going to do it again. Push my needle under the thread that's already existing there. Push my needle through the loop and make a knot. And now what I'm going to do here, I've made 2 knots, so I'm finished with this thread. I'm just going to pull it through a few more beads, like so. Pull it out, and then I'm going to take my scissors and cut it. But before I cut it, I want to just pull it really taut. So I'm going to hold it down with my scissors, pull really taut, and then cut, and then the thread disappears. You can't really see it there. It'll disappear inside the beads. So this is what I'm going to do with the second thread that's coming. This is the first thread that we had that I left a tail on. So here we go. I am going to, so it's coming out through this red one. I'm going to put it through the green one first, and then down through the red one between the pellin and the vinyl. You can feel it. You're just going to go straight down and then come up through that row of beads. You can go to the first row if you want to do a different row of beads. I try to do the same row of beads, and then I will go in the opposite direction. So I went this way with my first thread, so this time I'm going to take it in the opposite direction. If it's too short, I'll only make 1 knot. There we go. Coming out there, and I'm going to make my little knot. You see that? Pull, and then go through the loop and make my knot. Sorry. Make a knot. Pull it through the loop. And then all I have to do is cut my thread. Oh, I lost my needle, but that's okay because I'm cutting my thread now. And we're going to pull it taut and cut. And we have now finished. So I bought these online. You can glue this onto anything that you want to use it for. You could use it for like a lanyard or whatever. But if you have a smooth surface, I like to scratch it up a little bit because when you're gluing something to plastic or to metal, it needs a little bit of tooth in order for the glue to grab onto it. So it needs something to stick to. And this surface is a little too smooth for my liking. So I'm just taking the edge of my scissors and scratching it up a little bit so that the glue will stick. So I'm just going to wipe that off a little bit. And then I'm going to use some of our E6000 on. I want to take it right to the edge. Or if you have any ideas around what you would like me to cover on my channel, I'd be happy to do that for you. So here you see we've stuck it on, and it's pretty much like covering those. See, you can't see any of that backing now. So what I'm going to do is I have a dried bag of beans that I like to use to put weight on something that I'm gluing. So I'm going to put some a bag of dried beans on it and let it dry overnight. And then I'll be able to stick that on a phone and use it as a phone grip. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.